Hello, our friends, Evolutionary Energy Arts family.
Hello there. Welcome back.
Welcome back, guys. I hope everybody's having a great day. I hope you all are subscribed to all three channels. Evolutionary EEARTS, we're at 19.5. We have been stuck at 66.6. They go back and forth between 66.5 and then 66.6 since May of 2019. And at Heart's Home, we're at 2.22.
Hooray!
Duality. Oh, we've quoted this many times. Keep this in mind. This is, again, when the world was united, one language and a common speech. Now, I'm going to add things there. So what are we talking about? We're talking about what we would talk in the Bronze Age. Before the Kali Yuga came into full effect, people had the ability to utilize their pineal glands and to communicate telepathically.
And the beauty of that, it could be uncomfortable or it could be very beautiful, is there's no lying, because your energy speaks for itself. And there's no labeling either. You don't need to put a label on things because they come to you in a certain way and hit you as a certain emotion. So there's no need to take words, give meaning to them, and then utilize them in certain places. That's very chaotic to me. It's quite barbaric. It's so much nicer when you can just speak to the energies around you.
Yeah, absolutely. So one people, one language, one common speech, again, telepathically utilizing the pineal gland. And what do we see? And again, when we see the translation the Lord here, it literally translates to Elohim or mighty ones. And what they say is, hey, look, humanity is united. They're making, now the word that they use here to describe a tower that reaches to the heavens. Come, let us build ourselves a city with a tower that reaches to the heavens. Shem, and some have translated it to be name. Others have translated it to be really more along the lines of building a culture that could be spacefaring. Just like we have seafaring cultures, spacefaring cultures. And, otherwise we'll be scattered all over the face of the whole earth. That's a little, giveaway here that, this is a story that is trying to explain how things happened from a revisionist standpoint. And so the mighty ones came down. Came down from where? Well, if you come down, it's coming down out of the sky, obviously, and see the city and the tower that the people were building. If the people as one people speaking the same tongue have been able to do this, nothing they can do will be impossible. Let us go down there, in the plural, confuse their language so they will not understand each other, and scatter them into tribes. Again, divide and conquer. When we talk about taking away the ability of the pineal gland, we look to the second chromosome fusion. We look to all the DNA that has been classified as junk DNA that's of no apparent use. Well, yeah. DNA that has been turned off in many cases. It's being turned on now by the sun. This is why they want to spread those funny looking clouds. It's the number one reason why they want to spread those clouds, is they don't want us waking up. They don't want us having the abilities that we have when we're not in a dark age. So, this tells the whole story. This is an extraterrestrial intervention, and this is also playing with the DNA of the existing people that were on the planet. Oh, yeah. Isn't that going on now? Of course it is.
It's been ongoing for so much longer than we realize, from one age to the next. And it looks like, to us, without any other education, we are supposedly the pinnacle of modern technology. But that's simply not true. It's like these other energies have been tinkering with us for a very, very long time. And right now we're in a position where you have you have the ability to look beyond the veil, but so many people choose not to. And a really kind of a good example, I think, is we were talking with a family member earlier, and all of her friends were in these situations where they were having to go see doctors and get certain things done. And she would just try to gently mention, that maybe this goes deeper. She could clearly see past that veil. I mean, it was no problem for her to see deep into things and know exactly what's going on. But the other folks, they just, they had no use for it. They had no care for it. So they didn't look any deeper, when we're in a position now where we have that choice and opportunity if we want to.
Absolutely. And we see the ages of people right after that, where you see these amazing ages. 500 years, Methuselah, 969 years, right? People lived a long life. And this is also stated in the Greek mythology and also in the Vedic texts, that we live very long lives when we're not in the Kali Yuga, because in the Kali Yuga, the people that are in control, the beings that are in control, shorten our lives intentionally. This is exactly what's happening. And they also get us to worship them because they pretend to be the creator of the universe, and they're not. They are not. But again, people used to tend to trust the mainstream news. They've woken up to that. They've woken up to, maybe you can't trust politicians. No, you can't. Maybe you shouldn't even trust what the DR says. Look at where that got so many people. Tinkering with DNA, keeping us divided and conquered. And again, when you look to what does the Sumerian legends say about this? Well, it says that each of the Anunnaki gods picked a tribe for their own. And, again, when you read, but Abraham's and Israel's was the Lord's. Again, that word is always, it's not one word. Sometimes it translates as Elohim. Sometimes it translates as El, or a generic term for God. Again, El was a Canaanite storm god, I should say. And sometimes it's translated into Yahweh. So there's multiple translations there. But again, these are revisionist stories, and if you want to get clarity, you can go to the Sumerian tales. But the biggest clarity is when you compare all the myths and legends from around the world. And then also work on developing your own pineal gland. And you're not going to develop that if you are full of all the toxins that they're always trying to feed us, and utilizing all the things at lower frequency, again, like alcohol and yes, drugs, but also things that are illegal, things that your DR can give you. It's all about that. Think about this. There was a time when people heard voices and they did full frontal lobotomies on people and stuck them in the mental institutions. There was a time when they burned people as witches that could, have familiars. They communicate to animals. They communicate to nature spirits. They must be in league with the devil. Well, it's the demons that teach people this whole mindset, because what it does is allows them to utilize humanity to exterminate humanity and to keep them divided. They are so good at what they do. So good at what they do. And somebody had mentioned fallen angels. And, angels are not separate beings necessarily from humans. It's more of a position you choose to occupy, per se. Because ultimately, we're all consciousness. And we all come from, AI doesn't, but, the rest of us come from the same source. And ultimately, this is a battle against AI and the minions of AI. But that AI is not manufactured by humans. No, that AI existed long before humanity as we know it came into existence.
You know, that AI is also something that absolutely cannot come up with anything on its own. It has no original ideas, and that's why it spends so much of its time emulating and copying those things that are natural. Look at our organic abilities. You know, our organic abilities are to, we should be able to telepathically send information to and from, and instead of us practicing these abilities, they've given us these phones and these tablets, and that's what we do. We send instant messages to and from. And when it comes to the etheric realm with so much information in it, and we have the ability to go to different dimensions, they have created a false etheric realm that is full of EMFs. And in these EMFs are, again, a lot of packets of information going in the air. So again, it's emanating the AI, and that's what AI does. It wants to encompass and contain somehow source. It's almost like it feels like it's a competition. It wants to be source. But again, it is an ancient energy. It comes from a place that I'm not able to comprehend, but it was released quite some time ago. It's been here for a very long time.
And it's not just here, it's all over the galaxy.
Yes, it is.
That's the other thing to realize. So here we see Israel's anti-government protest movement gained new momentum on Saturday as tens of thousands of people spilled into the streets of cities across the country to oppose Netanyahu's contentious plan to overhaul the judicial system. Again, you look to even the recreation of Israel, which was, brought about into just the history books in 70 AD by the Romans, according to the history, and the diaspora, where the people were interspersed all over, back in 70 AD. So Israel was brought back into existence like 70-something years ago. So a long time it did not exist. It was brought back into existence, really, because of the actions of a Rothschild. Absolutely. And this was planned and talked about back in 1871. What could be more contentious than taking people that have lived on certain soil, thinking it was their home, and transplanting them? This is the system at work. This is the Tower of Babel at work. As you see Tel Aviv pro-democracy protests, there's a lot of people out in the streets, and it's all over the globe. This is the point. Serbia, anti-government protests, week 10. Polls show half the Serbians support the protest. Now, we can't trust any polls. A third want to take part. 93% know what is happening and why. But again, it's being hidden from the global press. This video will be just like the rest of the ones we do since May of 2019. It'll be buried, and they'll do their best to make sure as few people see this as possible. In Germany, you see people of a certain descent all over the streets, and we've seen this in other countries as well, France. And here you have the police going after them, but also you do have migrants, and again, we should have open hearts to those that have been kicked out of their houses and their homelands, or those that have been in such abject poverty that they need to think about transplanting themselves somewhere else. When we're not rooted, we are weakened. And, this is what they do to us time and time and time again. This keeps us in a position where it's all about the root chakra. If we're not rooted, if we're not grounded, if our basic needs and our entire lives, our basic needs are not being met, and we're totally unstable, we feel uprooted, then we're never going to develop that kundalini that's going to awaken the pineal gland. They know this. This is why one of the most basic things they do is create these migrant immigrant problems.
And it's just ongoing, and it is so sad. It is so unfortunate, because when do you have time to stop and sit and contemplate the life that you came here to live? When do you have time to figure out, well, what do you want? No, you're running from one place to the next, to the next, to the next. And the guides have always told us to be very careful, when we make movement, and to have it be planned out, have it be methodical, because to be on the run like that is just exhausting. And I do think at some point they are going to try to make a lot of people discouraged to stay in the same spot for this reason or that reason, because it really wears down the soul. And it's like these people, unfortunately, they're being used for a purpose. They're being used for an agenda, and they've now convinced them that they are living their purpose. This is the thing they're supposed to do. They're proud of it. They're happy to be doing it, and that's where I think things take a wrong turn.
Absolutely. So what you see is colonialism, in one point of view, has brought about such hatred across the globe for what has been perceived as colonial powers. And they utilize this. They utilize this behind the scenes. That was Germany that we were looking at. And then here you have France. And now what it does is it enables them to say, well, these are extreme times. We're going to have to take extreme measures. So now they're going to access civilians' phones through microphones and cameras, which they've been doing anyway. But they're just telling us out in the open now. So we might turn your TV on when you haven't turned it on. We might turn your smartphone on in the middle of the night and record you. Yeah, again, we might utilize your home surveillance equipment to see exactly what you're doing. What you are doing. Yeah, this is all a good excuse now, as we see the chaos in France. And, it's again global. This is global. They are trying to hide just how many places and it's happening in. And Nostradamus again said there would be a global war and a global revolution. And yet he was also controlled by the same power structure. Yeah, they worked through the monarchies. They worked through the papacy. They worked through all the major religious systems again. This is what they do. And they create hatred. They sow discord. They get humans to lash out against humans. They will entice those they can entice. Hey, bonus, sign-on bonus. Everybody's hurting right now. Sign on for the military, what have you. Sign on for the police department. Get, 10,000, 20,000, 25,000 bonus. Yeah, it's going to be tempting for some people, and they're going to do it. They will always, unfortunately, find people to enforce their will, because there's always going to be people out there that will rationalize it as, hey, I got to feed my family. And I've heard them say that. I heard security at Davos, being interviewed, and the guy's, rationale was, I got to feed my family. Wait, you can't do anything else? This is part of the problem, as you see the public burning effigies of Macron and others. That's just one step away from, the old guillotines of the French Revolution. It's a big step. But here you have, in Tbilisi, Georgia, people not liking a certain thing that's being kind of what they feel is being pushed on them. And so, disrupting events because they're against it. It's against what they believe in. And obviously, this is something that can go violent. But what we have to realize is there's a chemical reason for everything we see out there. There is also an energetic wavelength frequency reason, because all these things affect our consciousness. And over here, this is an India protest. And, again, India is a place that's finding a lot of issues as well between different religious points of views. And as we said, there's no system, there's no religious system that hasn't been affected by the controllers. None. They've all been affected. We could look to Gnosticism, and we could find that there are some great points. Like Gnosticism, the Gnostics believe you don't need any church structure. And you could communicate because God is in you. Hello. That's the same thing that Hinduism says. But then again, it gets taken over in some cases by legalese, in other cases by then pointing out at all of creation as being evil, when all of creation isn't evil. We're just under a dark system in a dark yuga, a dark age. Here you have Nigerian Muslims protesting the desecration of the Quran over in Sweden. And here in Sweden, you have the same thing going on, protests as well. Always divide and conquer. Here you have Sikhs out in the street, and some have taken issue with carrying the sword, which is one of the main symbols of their religion, as well as, facial hair and other things. But again, while if we look to Guru Nanak, the founder of Sikhism, his intent was pure, and he was a very, very high frequency being that understood the unity of all things, and the fact there is one creator. There's one creator of this universe. And yeah, we are going to gravitate to different paths, and you might gravitate to many different paths during your lifetime, especially if you're a religious seeker. That's perfectly fine.
Yeah, I think you should. I think you should go exploring. And here it seems like in the West, they make it almost shameful if you want to go look at something else. It's blasphemous if you want, if you're reading the Bible and you want to go check out something Buddha has to say. It's like you suddenly get rejected. And when you see behaviors like that are really kind of becoming anchored in fear, it's like, believe this or else. I mean, that's when I really start asking questions. It's like, why does there have to be so much fear? Revolving around this. We are very spiritual beings. The controllers know this. Their best bet would be to create a handbook for everyone to abide by, to make sure that they stay in a certain groove and do as they're told, and basically stimulating people to behave a certain way and make sure things just sort of go nice and smoothly for the controllers. And as long as everyone is doing that one thing, well, they're not going to have a whole lot of work to do besides, live in their mansions and drive their nice cars and, support their other family members, as long as all of us are in place and doing what we're supposed to. But that's really not the purpose of coming here to Earth. Coming here to Earth, we are here to explore. We are here to discover. And it's not even so much about love and oneness, because we come from love. We come from oneness. We come from perfect love. So we've come here to explore our emotions. And what I see is our emotions are being kind of utilized, and they're being taken advantage of, and they're being used for purposes that if we were really, truly aware, that's not what we would come here to do.
No, they have basically kind of kidnapped the purpose of coming here in the first place, is what they've done, and then kept us in a fear-based situation through division and divisive precepts, and divisive concepts, divisive tools of all sorts, and thus it keeps us always in this survival mode. And here you see French riots show that decades of mass colonizing immigration could lead to collapse, so says former head of French counter-intel agency. Well, again, there's deep hatred that's been put into place because of, say, France, Spain, England, and others as well, going out there and taking over countries. And then, basically what happens is they get converted to Christianity, and they are kind of robbed of their heritage. And now Islam is out there, and it's growing as well. And when we look to, like, the words of Albert Pike, it's all about creating division, so there'll be one war after another. And this is what we're going to continue to experience until we wake up and realize that we've been played. Every time they play you up as to, are you a patriot? How about being patriotic towards Mother Earth and forgetting the rest of the division? How about being patriotic towards life in general? Do you have to have your country be the best in the world? And then, define best at what? It's obviously, this is such a simple, obvious play to the ego. And yet it works. It works very well. It's not very hard to see. So let's listen to the words of Bobby Kennedy Jr. here.
Because of that experience, my father spent a lot of time thinking about how to fix the CIA. And right. In fact, he wrote it down. He outlined it a number of times, including a week before he died, in a very extensive conversation he had with his friend Pete Hamill. When Hamill asked him, "What are you going to do about the CIA?" and my father told him, he said, "We need to separate the espionage function of that agency, which is a legitimate function. That's the information gathering function, which right. We need an agency that's going to do it and do it well. And analysis from the plans division. That's the clandestine division. And those two divisions, although they're kind of separate at the agency, physically they're separated by actually turnstiles where you can't get from one end of the agency, one side of the agency to the other. But what's happened is the clandestine services, the operations division, the black ops, the groups that fix elections and murder leaders and bribe and blackmail and propagandize and do all those actions. It has become the tail that wags the espionage dog. And right. So there's no
Yeah, so that says a lot there. Now, he is giving us the clearest, almost like, wow, you can't believe he said that truth when it comes to the ouchie, things like this. And we had talked about 45, and we had touched on the fact, again, when you saw 45 first meet with 44, and when he was going into office, after that first meeting, he looked like somebody had punched him in the belly, like somebody had told him something that just, terrified him. It was so obvious that he was so shaken to the core. And what he was told was that, you really aren't going to have any power. You have to do what we tell you. If you don't do what we tell you, let's just say, you might not have any, what's that group? Do you guys know that group? La, 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 la. Oh, The Offspring. Yes, The Offspring. I love The Offspring, by the way. That was a great group. Yeah, he might not have any of those anymore. This is exactly what happens. And so, would he want to help humanity? Would 45 really want to help humanity? It feels like it. But again, when it comes down to it, would he say bye-bye to J period R period? No. They're not going to be able to. So it's almost shocking that Bobby Jr. is coming out with what he's coming out with. So when we look deeper into that, it does feel like he has some, let's say, extraterrestrial backing. And there are extraterrestrial groups out there that are of fourth density that are not high enough, like the Galactic Federation, so that they would not intervene, because like the Galactic Federation would not intervene directly. They're not going to interfere with human free will. There are some groups out there that really don't like what's going on Earth, and they don't like what goes on with the real control system of Earth on other planets, because it is the same control system on Mars and on Nibiru and other planets that we don't even know of. And there are some out there that could be maybe almost tempted to step up and, when a bully is picking on a kid and then a bigger kid comes over and says, you better stop that, or I might do something, sometimes they'll back off a little.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I didn't think there were any like that, but they are willing to take a risk. And these beings do have the ability to, they can see those who are they're able to channel through, and they will channel through them and have things come and occur. And for the Galactic Federation, this is a huge no-no. You do not intercede. You do not get involved. They feel there's karmic repercussion from that. The Galactic Federation feels that we are not doing it ourselves if they step in, but there are beings that are willing to risk it. There are beings that are willing to step in and say, you know what, we want to definitely give these guys our best shot. And it's really weird because I didn't believe that they existed, because I do like Corey Good. I think he's a great guy, but I wasn't of a direct experience with the Blue Avians. And then all of a sudden I did channel them, and they came through wanting to help, and they came through willing to risk themselves and risk certain karmic repercussions to come through and channel some beings that are in power that we see in this power structure in hopes of turning the tide. And eventually that's going to happen.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, if you look to the Hindu holy books, it's full of the wars of the gods, full of them. They're just loaded. There's been so many battles here on Earth. And those battles are viewed in the Bronze Age primarily, the age that we're going into. So, I know people want to focus on an age of love, light, peace, and perfection. See, the natural progression, if there was not the interference from the controllers right now, would be that each individual could clearly make their decision to move on up to a 5D existence. And I do think it still is in the realm of possibility for many, 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 many people. My mother, again, we share a lot through direct experience too. So, Cindy has been able to view my mother. I felt my mother, when she had just left, and I could feel her, and she did come to me as my dad had come to her when he had passed on 20 years earlier. And as far as where was she frequency-wise, because again, you have to realize fourth density is enormous. It's enormous. There's more beings in fourth density than there are in third density. And yet fifth density is actually the one that probably has the most consciousness exploring itself than any of them. So third and fourth are a little bit denser. They're a little bit heavier, even though fourth is so much more of a mental construct than our very, very heavy, dense physical reality. But she was basically at 4.45 is what we got from the guides. She was pretty much dead middle of fourth density. And as I've shared before, at first she was going to come back and reincarnate again. Then she decided not to. So if you could just hold your frequency to somewhere in the middle of fourth density when you leave the body, you'll be able to move up into fifth density. It's not going to be anybody that's going to judge you. You're going to judge yourself. You're going to say, what do I want to do? Because this is where we grow. We grow here. We grow here. So again, if we choose to have a life like one of these people that we see utilizing their power for their own good and subjecting others to misery, you're not going to get to the middle of fourth density. You're going to be in the lower fourth density, which is, is what we kind of experience right now. The chaos, the division, all that. That is a lower fourth density existence. So it's really up to what does your higher self, your soul, want? What do you want? When we come down here, this is our chance for expansion. We can grow here as a being. And when we do for the greater good, when we try to help others, we're really helping ourselves.
And you are your own judge when it comes to what is going on. You're the one who judges everything that you do, and whether you are happy with it or whether you are not happy with it. And here they take so much of our own power away, and they just hand it to something else. And then your self-worth is, you feel it's based on, what someone else says. And yeah, we have to move away from that. We have to understand that we are our judge. We came here for our experience. What we think is what matters most.
Absolutely. So again, this is the opportunity for soul growth. This is a trial by fire. It's a test. And we decided to come in and test ourselves here. And then that takes, all this hopelessness, woe is me, this is, nothing I would have chosen. Well, you actually did. Then you have to ask why. Well, it's because it's a chance to show who you are. This is a testing your mettle. And so how are you going to respond when they are, and again, with Bobby Kennedy, remains to be seen. But what we've been able to pick up is it seems like his intentions are pure. So it could be that his soul is simply saying, yes, we've been one of the Illuminati families. We want out of lower fourth density. I want out of lower fourth density. I want to move higher. I'm tired of this crap. Could be. Or, maybe it's something he's torn on, but it seems like he's kind of made the decision to try to help humanity. When we asked the guides, unfortunately, all they said when we said, is he sincere? And they said, well, we certainly hope he is. So they wouldn't breach that because, again,
he has free will too.
We all have free will. And while we might be herded into a camp like so many were into Bergen-Belsen and Auschwitz, there were those that woke up every day trying to just simply cheer up the other people. Those people were really working on their soul growth. And, again, it's the same thing is going to go in inverse for the leadership of this family. And we had pancakes this morning. I made Cindy some pancakes because she loves pancakes. Well, our meal was at like 2:30 because, we tend to intermittent fast, or at least I do. And Cindy nibbles a little bit here and here. She's just, it's okay. Yeah, but she nibbles raw pumpkin seeds. She's very particular about what she nibbles. This is Trudeau, and so people are questioning, is there something going on with his hand? And that looks like a CNS issue.
This was yucky when I asked about what's going on, and I could be wrong. I've been wrong before, but when I asked what's going on here,
I can't remember.
I can, but anyway, when I asked what is going on here, it was really gross what came through because it had to do with stem cells and what they do as a practice, but I don't want to really say it over the air.
Oh, that song? Kodachrome. There was a Kodachrome song. I don't know who sang that. It was from the 60s. Well, take part of that. And then, you could add something to it. Yeah, again, there's karmic retribution for everything that they do.
Included groundbreaking Asian Americans like Vera Wang and Joan Shingang, Shanga Koala. Included.
Oh, I think this is clone number 6, isn't it? I forget. It's hard to keep track of these guys. Again, this is just so blatant. It's in our face because they actually get a kick out of doing that.
They sure do.
And here we have a driverless car forces some of them to be hard reset, done as a form of protest against the autonomous vehicles. Yeah, again, this is just creepy. Look at all this stuff on top and everything, surveillance equipment. Yeah, when humans no longer will go ahead and support the system, then they will roll out all their drones and robots and all that. But again, at some point in time, there is going to be a split, and that split will be something they can't handle. They won't be able to go where we go. There's a new Ohio law which is streamlining homeschool reporting and increasing freedom. It's fundamentally changed the way things are worded, but people are definitely viewing this as a positive. But I'm also looking at, like, can't you see this is just plain old indoctrination? That you have to teach what they tell you to teach? And again, we know the history isn't accurate. We know the science is rewritten constantly. It truly is a joke, but thankfully more and more people are waking up to everything that's truly been going on.
And I think children need to know how to tend a garden. They need to know what medicines are in their backyard. They need to know how to make tinctures. They need to know how to build a house. They need to know about CPR. They need to know about how to take care of animals. I mean, why just put yourself in service to a system that's going to suck you dry until you're 65 and then you're so old and decrepit you can't enjoy anything and you just die and then they take part of that too. Yeah, no. I just don't see it as fair at all. And this guy, he's just not worried about any of it. I mean, he's having a good time, kicking his feet, eating his food. He seems okay.
I'll tell you one thing, he's not worried about paying his taxes.
No,
That's not bothering him at all. He's not thinking how many bananas go to the IRS guy.
And we as humans, we are the only race that thinks about that too. We're the only ones who have to actually pay to live on our planet.
Yeah, it's so obvious. It's not what's supposed to be. Again, look to nature and see what nature had planned, and then look at everything that's wrong with this society, and then we could maybe get an idea how we correct it.
Yes, and we can come together with a plan and move forward.
As always, guys, God bless and namaste.
Namaste.